Hello everybody and welcome back to my continuation of my book reading of The Whispering Nights. Chapter 1, The Witch's Brew. The frog legs weren't as bad as the children had expected. They slid quickly out of the tin and into the pan, which Susie was holding over the fire. Although they were greyish-brown and very unpleasant, Martha was relieved to see that they didn't look like real legs. She had been feeling sorry for the poor frogs. But William was looking closely into the pan. "We paid a lot for them," he said. "I hope they're worth it." The children had made a small fire just inside the door of the barn. They often came to play here, as it was only just outside the village of Steeple Hampden, where they lived. Nobody else seemed to use the big empty building. The barn's old walls were made of rough stone, which appeared to change color when the sunlight touched it, and the barn roof had green and gold plants climbing all over it. On the other side of the building was a big house, standing alone in the middle of the fields. Inside the barn, the only light that came through the large doors and one or two holes in the roof. So it was difficult to see into all the corners, which always looked dark and mysterious. It was William who had first suggested making a witch's brew, some weeks before. He had got the idea from his father, who was a teacher at the village school. "It's what witches used to do," he had told Susie and Martha excitedly. "You know, put all kinds of things into a pan and heat it over a fire. We can collect all the things and make a fire in the barn. It'll be fun. Just a small fire, of course. We won't be able to play here anymore if we cause any damage. Look, I've written it all down. My dad told me what we need. It's an old book he's got. Look, here's the list. With eye of fish, and toe of frog, wool of sheep, and hair of dog, oil of rose, and skin of snake, and wing of bird to brew make." "And how can we find all these things?" Susie had asked. Her eyes were bright with interest. "It's easy," said William delightedly. "We can buy a bottle of rose oil, a tin of those little fish with their heads on, for the eye of fish, and to a frog." "How do we manage that?" asked Susie. "No problem," replied William. "You can get frog legs in tins. People eat them." The girls stared at him in horror. "Honestly, it's true. We can order a tin from a shop in London, and we can find a dead bird in the woods. And a snakeskin, if we look carefully. But Martha was feeling very worried. "Do you think this is a good idea?" she asked. "I mean, it sounds like a spell to me. Is it really safe?" "It's not a spell," William answered. "It's like science. We're going to see what happens. It'll be very interesting." But Martha went on happily. "When you listen to all the stories in the village about the witch who used to live in the barn, couldn't it be dangerous?" "You don't really believe all that rubbish, do you?" said William. "Witches and all that? That was just superstition, what people in the past used to believe. You see, they wanted someone to blame when they were ill, or their cows died or something. So they said there were witches who put spells on things, but there aren't any. That's what my dad says, and he knows." Martha was still very doubtful, but she had to agree to the plan because the three of them always did things together. In the next couple of weeks, they busily collected what they needed for the witch's brew, as well as some firewood. Now here they were, on a Tuesday morning in August, all staring at a pan full of strange things on a very small fire. Susie, who was doing the cooking, had already said the words of an old song that William had copied from his father's book. Wind blow and night birds sing, fire burn and trouble bring. After a while she said crossly, "This fire's no good. The brew's never going to get hot." William and Martha looked into the pan. The frog's legs no longer looked like anything at all, but the bird's wings was still recognizable. Martha looked away quickly. "What's going to happen?" she whispered in a frightened little voice. "Nothing," said Susie. She wasn't afraid, but then nothing ever frightened her. She was only a few months older than Martha, but she seemed years older and was much more confident. "I'd like to be more like Susie," thought Martha, looking at her friend's round, sensible face. William wasn't afraid either, but it was his idea, thought Martha, and anyway, he's cleverer than Susie or me. The square of yellow sunlight falling on to the stone floor from the open door suddenly disappeared, and Martha felt cold. "What do we do with this, anyway?" said Susie, staring at the unpleasant grayish soup in the pan. "What did witches do with it when they made it?" She looked accusingly at William. I don't know," said William. He wanted to make a witch's brew in a place where people said a witch had once lived, but now he had actually made it. He couldn't remember at all what he had planned to do with it. He looked disappointedly at the brew. "Throw it away, I suppose," he said. "Or eat it, perhaps," said Susie, with a quick look at Martha, who felt suddenly sick. Now that the sun had gone, it was cold and dark in the barn, and the brew was beginning to smell bad as it got warmer. A little wind blew across the stone floor and made strange and sad noises in the roof. The children went on staring at the pan. At first they did not notice that a fourth person had joined them. She stood watching them for several minutes before any of them saw her. At last she spoke. "A witch's brew, is it?" They all jumped. Martha saw only her black shape against the light in the doorway, but saw that she was old and bent with a stick. Martha gave a little scream and put her hands over her face, her whole body shaking. William, who was closer, saw the person more clearly. He realized she must be the old lady who lived in the house next to the barn. Miss Applewhite. Wasn't that her name? He hoped that she would not stop them playing in the barn. Susie was the one who answered. "Yes, it is," she said. Miss Applewhite stepped into the barn. "Ah," she said, touching the empty tin of frog legs with the end of her stick. "Very clever. And how did you find the other things?" They told her, and she listened carefully. From the expression on her face, it was impossible to see what she was thinking. At last, Martha asked, trembling, "Does it matter? Have you done anything wrong?" The fire was no longer burning, and the brew was getting cold. Outside, the wind had stopped, and into the dark stillness came heavy drops of rain, like fingers touching the leaves of trees. "I don't know that you have done anything wrong," replied Miss Applewhite, "but it is possible that you have done something rather dangerous." Joel looked up to her, surprised. Martha's stomach turned. "I knew it wasn't safe," she thought, "but they wouldn't listen to me." William said, "But witches with tall hats and black cats and so on, that's just superstition. There wasn't ever a witch here." "Not a witch like that, I agree," said Miss Applewhite. "But there was something here. She was here for a time, you see." "She?" said William. "Who is she?" "Don't you children know about her? She is Morgan Le Fay, who was King Arthur's sister hundreds of years ago. She is also the Ice Queen, and many others. She has appeared in many different shapes and with many different names, but in the end, I always recognize her. She comes from a time much older than ours, but she's always here somewhere. She does all she can to destroy what is good. She's the bad side of things, you see. The children were very quiet. Well, what do you mean she was here for a time? Asked William. This barn was one of her places. She has places everywhere. While people believe that there are witches, she stays. But as soon as people begin to forget about her and laugh when someone says there's a witch in the barn, then it's time for her to go somewhere else. That's what happened here. So she's gone right away from here? Susie said, looking relieved. Miss Applewhite said nothing and stared at the remains of the fire. Has she gone? Asked William, watching Miss Applewhite. I thought so, said Miss Applewhite at last. There had been no sign of her for many, many years, but I know she watches the places that had once been hers, like this barn. And if she finds people who still believe, in the corners of the barn and in the shadowy places in the roof, the children could hear strange little noises. It's nothing, Martha told herself. The barn's always like this. It talks to itself. Miss Applewhite moved towards the door. It had stopped raining outside, but the sky was heavy with gray clouds on the hills. Luckily, she continued, she was always less interested in children. How will we know if she's interested in us? Asked Martha. Oh, you'll know all right. If she had noticed you, she'll look for your weaknesses. You'll have to be careful. And now I must go. She turned and walked quietly away, towards the door in the wall surrounding her house. Although she did not say goodbye or look back at them, the children had a strong feeling that she expected to see them again. Martha watched her go and suddenly realized how cold she felt. Her whole body felt like ice. She could not remember ever feeling so cold before. And when she looked at Susie, who had plenty of fat to keep her warm, she saw that her friend was trembling with cold too. Just then William said, I am frozen. Strange, isn't it? It's the rain, said Susie. That's made us feel cold. Time to go home. That's it, agreed William. It's the rain. Oh, do you think so? Said Martha in a relieved voice. Oh yes, said William, confidently. Come on, let's go home now. Once they were outside, they began to feel warmer as they ran back to Steeplehampton together in the thin evening sunshine. And that was the first chapter of The Whispering Nights, The Witch's Brew. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.